And thanks for watching Morning Live. Now, Plastics SA, which is the body that represents all role players in the plastics industry, has called on government to use all revenue that is made from levies on supermarket plastic bags for recycling. Now, Plastics SA says that government has made nearly 2 billion rand from these levies on supermarket plastic bags since it was introduced in 2004. Now, half of that money has been allocated to National Treasury, and the body says that South Africa could develop better recycling facilities and also create thousands of jobs if all revenue from levies were put back into the industry. The Executive Director of Plastics SA, Anton Hanekom, is with me right now to talk further about this. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you.
So approximately 2 billion rand of this money is what you were saying has been collected since 2004, and you believe it can be better spent. So given how government has spent this money to date, what exactly are you taking issue with?
Well, that probably remains a challenge, is how it has been spent. If one look at in 2014, the Minister of Finance then reported back to the Parliament is that around 16 million rand has been used directly in the environmental fraternity and environment. That money was channeled back to the Department of Environmental Affairs. Now, some of that money went into the industry through the old Buisa e-bag company, and some of that is used for the the NRCS, the regulator on SABC 695, the standard that regulates plastic bags. The rest of the money has gone into the fiscus, into the National Revenue Fund, and there it's been used for national priorities. So if you go back to the original agreement that was signed in 2003-2004 between government, industry and labour, it was clearly mentioned that the money will be ring-fenced and the money will flow back into the industry to take care of the plastic bag waste problem. We'll do collections, put material recovery facilities in, create awareness, we'll change the thickness of the bags, etc. So all we're asking is that let that money come back, let it be used for the environmental issues. Currently, I think one of our biggest challenges remain infrastructure. We don't have proper infrastructure in place. If one think about Johannesburg, recently the stats was that 81% of the people living in Johannesburg have access to waste management. Then we're not even talking about separation at source or making sure that all recyclable material is separated so it is easy to recycle and reuse it in another product.
So let's talk about the recycling. You say, amongst other things, that there's an opportunity, a window of opportunity for job creation here. How many jobs? What exactly are we talking about? The scale of this particular element?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to put numbers to exactly how many jobs. A conservative estimate a while back was around 8,000 direct jobs, but one needs to look at the informal side as well. Currently, the waste sector, through the informal collectors that's available and that's collecting for recycling, we're looking at 52,000 plus minus. I think government is using higher numbers. But if you put infrastructure in place, if you make sure that there are material recovery facilities, you can find decent jobs for those people. And it means that if you separate it or you make sure that waste is coming into those recovery facilities, you will be able to sort it and make sure that it's recycled again. So there's huge impact. We have to find end markets as well for the increased volumes that we are recycling, and even that will create new opportunities and new businesses. Part of what we're thinking of and working with, we recently, through the Consumer Goods Council, within a broader value chain, have created a South African initiative to end plastic waste. There's 4 working groups currently working. One of them specifically focus on infrastructure. So how do we take back into the communities a method, a South African scalable solution to ensure that we get the waste out of the environment, utilize people there, find employment, but also make sure that that material comes back for recycling and a new life in a new product.
And just talking about recycling and our psyche as a nation when it comes to waste and how we view waste, what we do with our waste products, how effective are we at recycling as a nation?
I think we're very effective as a recycling industry. If you look at purely mechanical recycling, we perform amongst the top in the world. We even outperform some of the EU countries from a mechanical recycling point. On a voluntary basis, the industry, through 4 PROs that they've created, collect more than 46% of the waste that we produce. We are collecting that for recycling. But we lack infrastructure and we lack that psyche. How often do you drive and you see people just throwing things out of the car windows? Now, we need to create a lot more awareness and education around the value of plastics. I think we see it as waste. We see it not as a valuable input into another process where we will create jobs, create new businesses, create income, and make sure that the environment is free of plastic waste.
So as industry players, you're asking government to bring back some of that money that they had promised to ring fence at the onset of these levies being put out. And as consumers, talking about that psyche, do you think that it's worthwhile perhaps incentivizing people to recycle more?
It's always worthwhile to create a change in that psyche and to get people to recycle. Currently, there is an incentive on collecting waste. That's why we have a huge informal settlement or a group of people that collect it. But at the end of the day, what is our view around the environment? Are we serious about the environment? So not everything should be incentivized. It's about our proudness, our environment, the place where we live in. But there is a role for incentives, and there are incentives in place for that. But yeah, I think we have to further develop it and really become serious around the environment. We call for a war on plastic waste, on pollution, and not on the product, because I think that changed the psyche as well. We're so stuck on the product that we don't see the environment ultimately and the pollution. And each one of us has a role to play within that. And yeah, we as a nation need to stand up and take care of our environment.
And of course, as an industry player, I understand the role that you are playing and the hat you're wearing here this morning. But you look at a country like Rwanda. I think we had one of our former ministers who dubbed the plastic bag as our national flower. And then you have a country like Rwanda, they go and they ban plastic bags altogether. What's your take on that? Do you think that this is something that in the end we ought to be considering as a nation as well?
I don't believe so. Currently, South Africa does have a ban on plastic bags. You pay for it at the toll. There's regulations around the thickness and so on. So we already effectively have a ban in place in South Africa. We still need to take it further and see how do we deal with recycling. But it's interesting, if you look at Africa, they seem to be the forerunners in banning plastic bags. And one has to go back and look at those countries. Do they manufacture plastic bags in the environment? How well is their recycling industry developed? And very often decisions to ban it is made not on the material, the product for what it is, but it's because there's no recycling. They don't have ways of getting it out of the environment. And it doesn't necessarily impact on jobs or income and things like that, because it's not happening in that country.
So besides job creation, what else would you say can this particular industry and recycling in particular do for the economy?
Well, it will create jobs, definitely. It will create a cleaner environment because the products will come out of that. So we won't see pictures like waste on the beaches and so on because it won't happen. Even our rivers will be cleaned up, because currently rivers is part of our waste system. We throw it on the river banks, the river takes it down to the ocean. So I think we will just live in a much better place, and our psyche will be much happier and open, because we don't see the waste around us. I mean, we don't produce and create plastic products to end up in the environment. It's a very useful environmentally friendly product, but we have to make sure it comes back. Jobs is the main thing at the end of the day. It will create income. We will create foreign exchange because we will be able to export recycled processed material that can be used somewhere else as well.
Well, Anton, thanks for stopping by. Anton Hanekom, the Executive Director of Plastics SA, talking to us about the state of our waste management and recycling systems, and also the potential that this industry has to create jobs and by so doing pumping more money into the economy.